we'll just see how that does.
Right.
Oh, and if you want, we can sign this too. It just shows that I won't share it with anybody without letting you know first, and not going to take advantage of you by whatever you say.
It's hard to imagine what you could possibly do.
I know.
What you would do. You wouldn't do anything.
Your teacher was very specific, like, make sure that you get that. Okay.
I'm
I'll sign it.
doing a research class right now too, and we have to do the same thing. So, yeah.
The second thing, if Brandy, for sure, I know will feel comfortable to tell me, but if at any time, like, I'm being culturally insensitive, if I'm rude, just let me know and stop me. Because of course that is not my intent, but sometimes I just say things. And
I was gonna say, Angel doesn't know how to be rude on purpose, so if she is, it's totally by accident.
Not to people that I don't know. if I like you, it's easy, but
I mean, we're not talking about certain people.
Right,
so.
right. Which is why I have until 7, because I have to beat Evie home. So.
Oh, okay.
So where do we start? So what we're doing, Dana and I, is we got assigned different cultural groups in the United States, and we just have to all we have to do is do a presentation on it, no big deal. So we got Muslim/Arab Americans, and tell me if this is correct or not. Muslim means a person that worships or follows Islam. Is that correct?
Muslim in Arabic language, it's like who surrender and submit God.
Okay.
He's like surrender and submit and following God, whatever he ordered him.
So Muslim is more a religious term. Arab would more be like a demographic location? Ethnic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I had that right, so.
And the religion most commonly associated with the word Muslim is Islam.
But that's not.
But
Islam is different.
But in the broad sense, like the most literal sense of the word Muslim, it encompasses anyone who worships God, who submits to God.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That is news to me.
We just watched a video, was it last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, about
it. Was for lecture about these terms and what is Islam is and where is the countries the most people they follow in Islam. They Asian more than Arab.
Oh.
Arabs are
like 20%.
Yeah, I said about
15.
20% of Muslims worldwide are Arab.
Yeah.
Oh.
Leaving 80% non-Arab.
Isn't that
the
interesting?
largest country? Indonesia, right?
Indonesia and
Malaysia.
India, I guess.
Like the largest populations of Muslims.
Isn't that interesting? Because
Southeast
I think for the most part people use Muslim and Arab interchangeably.
But no.
But
well, and not all Arabs are Muslim.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Some Jews, some Christian, and some
whatever
atheists.
else.
Yeah, a little bit of
probably some Buddhists and whatever.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. You guys are Islam. You guys follow
Muslims,
what
yeah.
I'm trying to say. What am I saying?
Muslims.
Practice
That's
Islam.
Yeah, there you go. That works.
Okay. And Brandy, did you grow up in a religion?
Not really. So I was baptized in the Lutheran church.
Okay.
And my parents kind of ended their whole, like, we go to church sometimes thing by the time I was 8.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was about when my brother was born, and they were pretty much done.
They're like, we have a boy, we don't.
baptized, and I think they did. Yeah, they had him baptized, and that was it. Like
Huh.
they were done, I
Interesting.
guess. So after that, no, I wasn't really raised in any religion.
Yeah. And I mean, I know a little bit about your history, but what ultimately drew you to Islam then?
There was some reading that I was doing, and I was having some existential crises related to the church I was going to, and
Okay.
how very, I will say, closed-minded about certain things
Mhm.
they were, and how that didn't sit right with me. It didn't sit with my understandings of the teachings of Christ and the Gospels, and it didn't feel like that's what people should treat other people like. You're aware of my sister, right?
Mhm.
So that was also in conjunction with my sister coming out to the family, and then me mentioning it in a Bible study group one night and being told, oh, well, you have to cut her off.
Oh.
And so that kind of set off a chain of events of like really starting to think about, why am I even part of this group? Do I want to be? Do I want to stay in the Christian church?
Sure.
And so I was kind of at a point where I was open to exploring different ideas and things, and I read a certain book it's called Alchemy of Happiness, and it's by Al-Ghazali, which was Middle Ages Muslim teacher, philosopher, religious leader.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was a lot in that resonated with me, a lot of questions I had, and as I started pursuing answer to those questions, I started ending up more in line with the actual teachings in Islam, rather than all of the things we hear about, which I fought against, because we hear about all the things,
Yeah.
and those crazy terrorists, but
Right.
Misconceptions.
But I was going over and meeting with the imam at this little mosque around the corner here, and talking to him about stuff. And one thing I appreciated about him is he never like tried to convert me. He just shared what his beliefs were, and he acknowledged that there were some things that were the same, and there were some things that were the same but coming from different perspectives, and there were some things that kind of were the same but were seen differently.
Okay. Yeah.
And there wasn't a whole lot that was actually different. So that's just kind of where I ended up gradually. And it was, for me at that point, it was either that or nothing. Like, because I had pretty much stopped the whole church thing by that point. And Megan got mad at me. She got really, really mad at me.
Well, did you have any other people that other people had to have had reactions?
Oh, well, like all the people who were, said they were my friends and, related to the church, which, for me at that time, especially because North Hills was gone,
Right.
and I was still kind of wondering, like, oh, what do I want to do when I grow up? Still there, but, they all just kind of, they're like, we're, you're not one of us, so bye.
Yeah.
And so all of those people who said they were my friends would only be my friends if I was one of them.
Under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so I lost contact with, I'd say 95% of the people. And the people that still talk to me, I don't know if they really knew. And most of them I don't really have any regular contact with anymore. Sure. And that's just like drifting in different directions. I'm much more involved with GRCC. I have friends there. I have friends I've made away from there. I have some friends in the Muslim community. I'm just like all over the place.
Sure.
I have a cat.
A cat first.
I have a cat and a husband.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just, so those relationships were really built on shared religious beliefs. And once those shared beliefs weren't there, and this was one of the things I had struggled with, is that I'd seen it happen to a certain extent to other people who maybe drifted away from that church or from
Mhm.
the church altogether, who were just kind of like, well, you're not one of us anymore,
Sure.
and we hope you come to your senses, and we'll pray for you.
Mm-hmm. What was your family's reaction?
They there's no reaction.
Oh, they're just like, oh.
They just, I don't know if they even get it, but because I don't know. And when I told them about him, my dad was just like, well, is he okay with Christians? I was like, no, Dad, he's a terrorist. No, but yeah, he's okay, and they get along fine.
Yeah.
Like, he gets along with my parents just fine, and they're very respectful of, everything that, like avoiding pork and
Yeah.
alcohol and that stuff. They don't
Yeah.
have a problem
Nice
with it.
nice relationship between us.
Yeah.
Good. That's good. So, Ahmed, am I
Yeah.
saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you grow up in the
In Egypt, yeah.
Okay. In the Islam faith?
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost Egyptian, they attached to religion, the religious community, and whatever they Muslims or Christian,
Mm-hmm.
because Egyptian the community is attached to religion, whatever that religion.
Okay.
So
So it's
Yeah.
all kind of
Yeah.
woven in together.
yeah,
I thi-
Religion and culture and community.
It's like what, 10% Orthodox or Coptic Orthodox?
it's like 10 or 15% Orthodox.
And then pretty much
rest of
everyone else is Muslim, although there are some there
In
like
Egypt?
yeah, in
Okay.
Egypt. And then I think there's like a little pocket of Jews here and there.
Yeah,
But
but almost of them they immigrated to Israel.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's some history there.
just a little bit, no big deal.
Right.
little war here.
but
and
some
there.
of them they still live in Egypt.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay, that's interesting. So then, since we're specifically talking about Arab Americans and Muslims in the United States, and you've been here for a couple of years now,
yeah.
like what are the some of the biggest, I don't even know, is there a big difference in the actual like practice of Islam between how it's practiced in Egypt and how it's practiced here in Grand Rapids?
I don't feel it's a big difference. It's almost like in Egypt, but it's in Egypt you feel that atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
and when Ramadan will start, you see the decorations
Mm-hmm.
in streets and these things. So just in small things, just that difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what the Arab American population is in Grand Rapids. I mean, in Detroit, I know it's quite large.
Yeah, and they're born, I guess.
Yeah. Michigan, I believe, has the fourth largest population of Arab Americans in the United States.
I think California first, then
Mhm.
New York, then Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the fourth. Although I think that the largest concentration might be Detroit, Dearborn,
Yeah.
Detroit
I was
area.
trying to look up
But
some
the
of
state- Yeah.
those statistics, and I was like, okay, so is it California or is it New York or is it Michigan or is it
Yeah. There are Arabs in every county in Michigan except one.
Really?
And I'm not sure there are any other people in that county. I'm not sure what county it is, so I don't know if there are any other people in that county or not.
Yeah.
But that was a statistic I found I think 2 summers ago, a colleague of mine asked me to give a presentation in his multicultural children's lit class
Mhm.
on Middle Eastern American literature.
Sure.
And that was one of the statistics that I found that I keep remembering. I'm like, wow, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Have you, I mean, this neighborhood is pretty diverse.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any discrimination since you've been here?
It just a little bit in at work where I work at Rascom Company, but it's not a big deal. It's just something.
Is it more like individual people, or is it like a?
I don't know. I felt it's like because I'm Muslim. That's what I felt, but I don't know if it's right or not.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't overt, like people yelling.
Yeah, no. It just
Slurs or
in
something.
trading, just a different way between me and other.
Okay. Yeah. And you said just at work.
Yeah, at work.
Is it a big company that you work for?
Yeah, it's a Rascom Company in 32nd Street.
What's it called?
Roscam Baking. It's actually a pretty big company. They have 3 factories in Grand Rapids
Like
area.
4, I guess.
3 or 4 factories. But his is the one, you know where it says the Mazda plant behind Schuler on 29th Street?
Yes.
That is actually Roscam
Yeah.
Baking.
Oh, is
That
it?
was the one where he worked.
Another
And
one.
we'll hopefully go back to,
32nd.
but yeah, and then there's one on the corner of 32nd and I can never remember the name of that street. Schaefer?
I've probably
Yeah.
passed them and just not.
Yeah. You can when
Yeah.
you pass
Paid
that one
attention.
sometimes you can smell the chocolate.
Oh,
That's the
nice.
one where he started at.
And peanut butter.
And peanut butter.
Yeah.
Mm. And Brady, you said other than like once you converted to Islam, like losing half of your or 90%, I think you said 90%, more than half of the friends
Yeah.
that you thought you had.
Yeah.
Have you felt any other kind of discriminations or I mean clearly you're not walking out with like a full
I
hijab.
Hijab.
do actually wear a hijab most of the time.
Okay.
I didn't at first, and then I started, and then I have had isolated incidences
Okay.
on campus. One student, oh my gosh. So this kid had lots of problems. I'll just preface with that. And he tried his best to get me to fight with him.
He doesn't know you
he
then.
just-
Yeah.
So, the second day of class, he's waiting for me outside the door. Your religion hates me. I was like, as far as I know, religions don't hate. And I don't even know you. So, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And I was unlocking the door and walking in, and then he came up with his tablet and he was trying to show me all of these transgender people, thinking it was going to get me all riled up. And I was just like, oh, cool, I like that outfit. Nice hair, you know? And I was like, what are you trying to do? I'm trying to get ready for class to start. So I wasn't really giving him 100% attention. But he would make comments similar to that throughout the semester.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ended up with him being asked not to come back to class in the last week, just because he got mad at me because he got a B on a paper.
Well.
But he was looking for things, you know,
Yeah.
he was constantly looking for something. So that was one, and then another one, a couple semesters later, was turning a paper in after class. He had to go print it and came in. There were a couple of girls standing in the room with me, and we were just chatting. And he hands me his paper, and then he's like, so can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah, go ahead. why do you wear that rag on your head? I was like, rag? Let's talk hate speech here. So I called him out on that, and he's like, no, I don't know. But I found out he grew up in Hudsonville. I think he knew.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. So,
Yeah.
but mostly there hasn't been much else.
Mhm.
Occasionally people are surprised I speak English. Why wouldn't I speak English? You want I should talk like a funny freak? Like, then I'll just start speaking Russian. What are you going to do about that, people?
Right. You should be more surprised that I don't speak English.
Yeah, so, no, but mostly everything has been fine,
Mhm.
as long as you're, like, aware
Yeah.
of where you're going
Right.
to Hudson.
Well, in for this class, we had to interview somebody that was different from us in any way.
Yeah.
And do you know Amelia?
I remember
she's black.
Amelia.
We worked at
Yeah,
Lowe's
at
together.
Lowe's. Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember
And
Amelia.
she was my person that
Yep.
I interviewed, and she was telling me, like, yeah, I don't go to Howell, I don't go to Grand Haven.
Yeah.
I was just like, wait, what? Come again? That doesn't make any sense to me, but yeah.
You gotta know where you can blend in well enough to
Right.
not get anything. One other thing that happened at GRCC, I wouldn't call it discrimination. I would
Mhm.
call it ignorance. But he wasn't with me, but I stopped into the Lake Michigan Credit Union branch that's on
Mhm.
campus and was asking what we needed to open an account for him so he could have his own, checking or
Yeah.
debit card and everything. And I don't remember what it was she said to me, but it involved the words, whatever you people
Oh.
are you. It's like, she's never said anything like that before to me
Yeah.
until I mentioned having an immigrant Arab husband.
Yeah.
And then she just, like, her language use was just off.
Change. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been back in there since then. I drive to the one over by the mall.
Sometimes it's just easier.
Yeah.
So you talked about it taking a while to get a visa.
Yeah.
Now that you're here, do you feel like you have to work harder, or there are different expectations for you, or I've never been
Yeah.
an immigrant here, so I don't
Since
What?
I
You're
got
from
here, I
Kentucky?
was
know.
working so hard. Sometimes I work 7 days a week, and but that before accident that I happened to me. But it's I would like to achieve things in this country, like I have my own restaurant, or I have my own house. So I was working hard.
Yeah.
Now, he had asked, so he had been, when he first started at Roskam, he was working first shift. He was working where the chocolate was, yummy, tasty, smelly stuff.
Yeah.
And then after the holidays, they didn't need people anymore, so they sent him over to the Mazda 29th Street place to third shift. And he didn't like working third shift, and he was just had a hard time with the daytime sleeping sort of thing. And so he had been asking for a while to
Like a
switch
month.
to second shift.
Yeah.
And he had seen other people who asked after him being moved to another shift
Okay.
before him. I don't know, because I wasn't there, if there's anything involved in
Sure.
that other than they like him doing the third shift job because he'll do it.
Mhm.
And they didn't want, somebody else to go in who wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Or if there's more to it than that, but just, that is something that happened. But then he got hit by a car, so we don't know
Oh.
what really
Goodness.
was going to happen. So that's why the wheelchair rack is there.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed the crutches are over there.
We got rid of the wheelchairs,
So
so those are gone.
but um, I don't know what I was about to say.
I don't know what you were going to say either. Did it
Um,
have to do with work? Your shifts?
They just stuck me there in that line. I used to work there because my supervisor, she was telling me like every day, we didn't get anybody yet. Just wait until we get somebody.
To move to,
Yeah.
so they could move you. But other
Then
people were able to move.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you never know what goes into those decisions, but
Yeah.
it does make you wonder.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite things about, and I'm using Arab American, like I recognize this is a big question because it's
Yeah.
not like all Arabs come from
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
one
they-
place, but generally speaking, what are some like your favorite things about your culture, about Islam, about the differences that
About I think about Islam, it's like religion. You use it in daily basis in many things in your life.
Mhm.
It's like that accident that it happened to me. It's made me calm down when I just remember that accident. So it's like way of life.
Mhm.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe this is true. I believe this is true. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But in most Arab families, family is like
Yeah.
the most important, right?
Yeah,
Whereas in
they-
America, it's pretty individualistic.
Mhm.
That's right. Almost Arab's family, they live in the same building.
Mhm.
They build their own house, and after children they getting married, they live in other apartments.
Mhm.
So they prefer to be all family in the same place
Yeah,
rather than everyone
scattered
Yeah.
around.
And he and his brothers are building just such a house
Yeah.
in Egypt.
Are you?
To be all together. Yeah.
Yeah.
How big is your family?
It's my. Do you mean my family and my brothers and?
Your immediate family.
I have two brothers and a sister.
Okay.
My dad passed away, and my mother is still alive.
Okay.
And his older brother is married, but his wife is in Illinois.
Yeah.
And then his sister is married and has 3 children now. Don't forget about
Yeah.
that.
Was
He
one just
forgot-
made?
Well,
One
he
born?
forgot her name one time when he was talking to
Yeah,
his
she
sister.
just
and
one,
he
uh,
forgot the little one's name.
like 4 or 5 months ago.
Oh,
Okay. Oh, sweet.
So
Yeah.
I
Hasn't
don't
met her
remember even
yet,
her
but-
name. That was funny.
But
That's
he
cute.
talks to his family almost every day,
Yeah.
sometimes multiple times.
Some people it's like every 2 hours they
Wow.
go or
Yeah,
talk to
there's-
their
So
family.
does your mom and sister and brothers, they all still live
Yeah,
right
and
by
they
each other?
yeah.
Okay.
they're in the same
Same apartment.
place. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it difficult being here? Being so far away then?
Yeah.
Just Brandy and the cats?
Because it's like 4 years.
He's really good friends with the cat.
Because it's like 4 years I didn't see my family.
Yeah.
Because I was living in Saudi. Then when I got the visa, I was about to go to Egypt, but it was military things. I had to go to
Okay.
military. It was about to delay me to come to here.
Sure.
So I
Okay.
got to here then. it was about
So I
fly
was,
to
I kept
Egypt.
telling him, go spend time in Egypt, go spend time in Egypt. And his mom's like, don't come to Egypt, you'll get sent into the military, go straight to
Oh.
Michigan. So he ended up coming here because he did his compulsory military service, but
Yeah.
I guess they kind of own you for 10 years after
Oh.
or something like that.
It's like
so they can
7
call you
years,
back
but
up.
it's almost like 6 years. It's almost
Yeah.
done.
So they can, if you would go back to Egypt, they could call him up and make him go
It's
do
been like
military stuff.
15 days, then
Oh.
get back.
But his mom and his brother were like, no,
Don't come.
don't do it.
Yeah.
So he came here instead,
Yeah.
and he was just getting ready to go visit his mom. Like the original plan had been for going like November and December to visit his family in Cairo, and he got hit by a car.
I was
So
just
he's
this
still here.
past
Yeah,
November?
Yeah.
I just turned on my passport. Then when I got a car, it was faster than.
Like you were walking, you weren't
Uh-huh.
in a car.
No, I was
No.
crossing the street.
He was crossing 28th by Meyer,
Yeah.
and a guy turning left from Kalamazoo onto 28th, like, just hit him.
And apparently must have been going pretty quickly.
Yeah.
There's some debate about exactly what the speed was, but it seems to have been a bit faster than you should be when you're turning.
Yeah. Like I
So-
feel like the car would be able to
I
wheel.
just stopped in the middle, then checked it was clear, then I was running to cross the
Mhm.
road, then hit me
Oh my goodness.
while turning.
But you're doing okay now. You're walking.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Way better than before.
Yeah.
We won't make
Before
you
I-
look at Frankenfoot. It
Before
really
I-
did look like it was almost gone.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I have 2 plates and bunch of screws
Oh.
everywhere.
And in his elbow too. He broke his elbow too, but that healed a lot faster.
Yeah.
I'm
So at your
grateful.
job, you stand.
Yeah,
most
it's
of the
physical
time?
work,
That's gotta be
washing
hard.
and
He's not back
lifting.
to work yet.
Okay.
But I
Hold out for
think
that second shift job.
I think I will be able to get back to work soon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I hope you are. I hope you are. We kind of talked about other than like missing family, are there other things that has been a culture shock or a difficult transition to being here in the U.S.?
Lack of people around. You commented on that.
Because everybody kind of goes in and
I
shuts
feel
the
yeah,
doors.
it's like people here. It's like everyone don't like to if you don't know him or her, they don't like to talk much to you.
Mhm.
But if in Egypt, if you walk on the street, if you ask about place, would you like to go there? He might speak to you for an hour, even
Okay.
but and also I'm missing the food.
Mhm.
Many things I miss it there.
Is there a like a grocery store that carries familiar food?
There are two.
But it's
Like, is there? I feel like
Yeah,
there's
it's
one on 28th Street
There's
Mediterranean
by
and
the braid place. There's like an African braid place, and then I thought there was one close by, but I might be.
there's
I didn't know that.
sorry. There's an Indian store near there.
Oh, that's probably what I'm thinking.
Spice of India, I think, is the one near there. But so Kalamazoo and 44th,
Mhm.
there's Mediterranean Island in that like town and country
Okay.
strip
Yeah.
thing, whatever that is, because I
Mhm.
don't know. But yes, there's Mediterranean Island there, and I think the owners are Lebanese.
Lebanese, yeah.
Yeah, they're Lebanese, and they carry a ton of stuff, and they have a deli counter with different things that's pretty
I
decent.
think it's
but
from Lebanese
yeah,
cuisine.
it's
It's
not
not
Egyptian.
from Egyptian
Yeah.
cuisine.
Yeah, and then there's
It's
there's one on East Paris near like right next door to the mosque.
Okay.
It's Ramallah or Super Green Market, and they carry a bunch of stuff too. But again, it's not Egyptian. What is he?
Palestinian.
He's Palestinian.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find.
Yeah, here in Grand Rapids, it's I didn't find.
There
In
used to
your
be an
restaurant.
Egyptian restaurant on like Fuller or something. I don't even know if it's still there, but
I don't.
Mm.
I don't know. I've never heard of.
it was
Think-
across from like a pizza, Rinaldi Pizza
Oh,
or something.
maybe we'll
Maybe
check
in
that out. I don't know.
Detroit or
Yeah.
because it's a lot
Yeah,
of.
I need to take him to Dearborn and
restaurants,
see if he
yeah.
can find his people there and his food.
Do you know how to cook? I
Okay.
mean, you said you want to open your own restaurant.
Yeah, I like bakery more than. I like food, but it's. I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
Like bakery.
You like pastry more than
Yeah.
chef
Yeah.
stuff.
But he does make some pretty good stuff, both baked stuff and like he'll make. He's got his version of shawarma, chicken shawarma that he makes, which is really good,
Yeah.
and those meatballs that you made that one time
Kofta.
that you need to keep. No, not kofta.
Whatever.
Those little meatballs in the sauce.
I don't remember.
I feel like David was part of their name, but that's
Oh, yeah, Kofta dough. It's
Yeah.
like David,
See?
David Kofta.
Yeah, those
Those things.
Those
Yeah,
were
with
good.
Sauce. Yeah,
Yeah, so you need to make those again. Just saying.
it's delicious.
It is. But yeah, no, he bakes a lot. In fact,
Yeah, today.
there were times when he was working third shift on the weekends when he wasn't working. He was so used to being up at night.
Mm-hmm.
There were times he would get up like around 2 or 3 in the morning and come
Make
down here and bake. And I'm like waking up to these delicious baked good smells.
That's something makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He baked cookies today
Yeah, for
that
you.
are one of his specialties. So even if you
Today
can't
cookies.
eat them now, we should send a little container home with you
Yeah.
so that you can have
But I
some.
would like to
Absolutely, I
know
love some.
your opinion.
Yeah, I would love to try them. You know what?
That's
I
great.
will say,
He's gonna go get them.
say that my my professor's partner might be from Egypt.
Oh really?
He's lived in East Grand Rapids for, I forget, 15, 20 years. A long time.
Yeah.
But he was like in a refugee camp and
Mm.
like he's been a
All
lot of
over.
places.
Yeah.
She's like, so he gets so irritated when people will say, "Where are you from?" And he's like, East Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
I've been there.
This is my home. This is where I'm from.
Lived here for 15 years.
That's a
so,
long time. So yeah,
Yeah.
by that point, you know,
Mhm.
most people have made it their home.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, do you know what time it is? You have my phones.
I know. It is 6:16.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's
So I can set a timer.
yeah. As long as
How
I
much?
leave by 7.
If you leave by 7, okay.
Yeah. Because they are. I was about to say sledding. I think they're actually tubing. Thank you. Oh my goodness,
I
that's
did
so
cookies.
good. They remember Big Newtons? Do you remember?
Yes, that's kind of what they
That's
are.
what they're reminding me of. Thank you.
Hope you like it.
What's it called?
We call it here in Egypt.
Both.
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 That's good.
It's call it Basquiat.
Awesome.
Basquiat. It's close to biscuit in English. Yeah.
When this that crust is so good.
I think that's one of the best ones that he's made too. Because the first one that I stole off the tray, I was like, oh my god, he was in here sleeping. So I had to be quiet.
Right.
Oh man, that was so good.
Oh my goodness. It's so good.
Glad you like it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dana's gonna be mad she missed it.
Well, you know, just you can put in your order anytime.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. I should have you make some for our presentation. Be like,
Ooh, you
give us good grades.
should. You should. When is your presentation? Maybe he can make some for you.
When is it? The 16th?
Sure. Yeah.
Of March?
Yes. I could come get them on the. Well, I could probably pick them on the 16th or the day before.
If you would like
Sure.
them, we can make
I
sure that you
would.
have some.
I would love it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Anytime,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you.
So we're kind of joking about our president. Yeah. the things
Our
he's
dictator in chief.
implementing and things like that. You've lived here for 2.5 years.
Almost
Here
2
it's almost 2
years.
years.
Oh, okay.
It's like a year
So-
and 9 months.
So you,
10.
I mean, he has been president the whole time you've been here, so I don't know if you would notice a difference, but have you noticed a shift, a change, something with this administration? I mean, maybe Randy, you might be able to answer that better than Ned, since you didn't live here.
I think you would have to live under a rock to not notice a change.
And
Not
I mean
that the
specifically, like,
yeah, like
I mean, obviously the things we see on the news and different things.
yeah,
And Amelia was saying the same thing, like, you know, people are just feel more free to say things
yeah.
than they used to.
I think in some ways that's true, but I don't know, because at GRCC it's kind of like a different world than the
Mhm.
rest of this area.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I feel like for a short time, students that I had or interacted with felt like they could say more. I don't see that as much, in maybe the last year or so.
Okay.
I feel like most of the students are pretty they don't seem to feel a need to like spout off opinions and things like that.
Yeah.
I can't say that most of my students, I can't really say I know what their political affiliations are.
Mm-hmm.
A great number of them I couldn't identify if they're Christian, non-Christian, religious in any sense or
Mhm.
whatever. But I do feel like there was a lot more of that kind of in your face in just shortly after the election.
Mm-hmm.
So in that first semester or two after, there seemed to be a lot more
Yeah.
vocal and kind of open about things.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, like, the raghead comment was during election season.
Okay.
So it was before,
Mm-hmm.
it was actually the winter before.
Oh, okay. And I mean, Trump was making a lot of noise.
Yeah,
Already
so there
by
was
that
there was a
time,
lot.
but-
Yeah, people were wearing the hats, and there was a lot of talk and that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was before. It was still
Yeah.
before he was actually elected.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I just get lucky, or if it's just the way I run the classroom doesn't lend itself
Yeah.
to a lot of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the big lecture I give on the first day of class that we are nice to each other in this classroom, and if you don't like that, there's the door. That might have some. I mean, it's a little nicer lecture than that, but it
Right.
boils down to
Yeah.
that. Like, there are lots of people in this room with lots of different views, and some people who don't even know what their views are. And if you don't like being exposed to things that are not yours, then you should probably find a different class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Nobody stopped me in the elevator and asked me how I know what color scarf to wear. That
Wait,
happened.
what?
It was actually another faculty member in a different department stopped me in the elevator one day. We were in the elevator one day together, and she's like, "How do you know what color scarf to wear?" I was like, "I just look at the rest of my outfit."
I was
Trying
like,
to
is
match-
there
How
a
do you know what
significance?
color shirt to wear?
Yeah.
And she just kind of laughed because
Yeah.
she's like, "I guess that wasn't the best."
That's funny. I like that question.
It's so funny.
But even the secretary in our department, well, the easiest term is secretary because nobody knows what APSS stands for. I don't know what APSS stands
Sure.
for.
Yeah.
So she used to ask me comments like if I came in, you know, with a turban style on my head, and she's like, "Is that a new thing they've got?" I'm just like, "Who's they?" So
It's a new fashion.
Yeah. So this is probably another like overly broad question. Obviously, I know that not all Arabs come, like Arab is a broad term, means like
Yeah.
a lot of different things. When we would talk about like different categories or like groups, would it depend on the country that you're coming from? Or like if I say like what are some of the groups amongst the Arab culture? Like, can you say these are some groups that, or is that too broad of a question?
There's
Am I
so
making
many.
sense?
there's so many.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
Because Arab, they have many different dialects and they have many different cultures. Some of them, they like in Egypt and North Africa, like Tunisia, Morocco, or Algeria, they it's like modern society. In Gulf states, it's like tribal society, and they have many differences in between them, even in religions. Like Lebanese, they have many religions there. It's like more than 15 or religion.
So like on the news, like you'll hear a lot about my mind's gonna be blank. Sunnis
Yeah.
and Shiites. Are those different like branches of Islam? Is
Yeah,
that what that-
they believe in the
I feel
same
like I
book.
should know this by now.
They believe
It's
in.
been on the news a lot, but
Yeah, you're right. But they believe in the
Trust
same
the
book.
news.
They believe in the same book, Quran. But it's Shiites. They have some different beliefs
okay.
about companions with Prophet Muhammad, and they have things. It's like bizarre
Okay.
because they curse companions. They believe some of them they didn't sincere, and they didn't do a good job for the prophet, or they believe in that. They believe in you should curse them because but it's the story of prophet. They were so loyal to him and so loyal to that religion, but they have some issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of it started with who should be the leader after the Prophet Muhammad died.
Okay.
And so there were disputes about who should be leading the Muslims at that point. And then as the those who followed one leader and those who followed the other leader, and
Yeah.
then there are changes that happen.
And then it kind of just expounded.
Yeah, and so if you want to put it in terms that you might be more familiar with, think of like Southern Baptist Church and Latin Mass Roman Catholics,
Mm-hmm.
where the Southern Baptist Church would be more familiar to what you grew up with and experienced, like, even though that's not what you are now, but
Mhm.
that's, you know,
Right.
that's more familiar to you. And then if you think of the Latin Mass Roman Catholics, that's they have lots of rites and rituals and
Mhm.
saints and things that are more foreign to you, more
Yeah.
ideas that are,
Yeah.
and it seems a lot more complex and complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Sunni and Shia is obviously, you know, within Muslim contexts, but is different
Yeah.
in similar ways to that.
Okay.
Where Sunni is generally more like Southern Baptist in that it's like just the basics. You do your prayers, you do your fasting,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you give in charity and that kind of stuff. And then Shia, they have a lot more rituals, and they have their shrines, and they have their saints, and they have, you know,
Yeah.
lots of
Okay.
things that go
And they
along.
believe in the leader of Shia. They believe he's like prophet, and he can contact with God and can ask what he's supposed to do, or
Mm-hmm.
his people what's supposed to do, or things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting. And then I saw another term and I meant to look it up and I forgot.
We can define
Yes, I believe you can.
it. Because we have the Google.
Chaldean. Is that
Oh,
in like
That's
does that fall in there too, or is that
Iraq?
What is it?
Chaldean.
Chaldean.
That's I think primarily from Iraq, and the Chaldean Catholic Church is like a
it's
Christian-
church. Oh,
well, there's I don't know if there are Chaldeans who are Muslim.
okay.
That's something I'm not sure of.
Okay.
But I know that there are Chaldeans who have like a Chaldean church that's
Okay.
like a Catholic church of some
Okay.
sort. Because I had a student once.
Okay.
And he explained some of this, but like his family was from Iraq. He grew up in Detroit, Dearborn. But so they're Arab, but they're Christian, not, or his family at least, and that was just one group.
Okay.
I don't. You know anything about that, or is that?
I
foreign
don't know
to you
what
too?
is Chaldean.
Yeah, I'm gonna look.
You mean
See
he,
if you
he was
recognize
leader?
it. No, not caliphate.
I know leader was his name Salahuddin.
Okay.
I just confused. It's maybe in English it pronounced
It's
close.
very possible I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah. I don't know.
So, Chaldea was a country that existed between the late 10th or early 9th and mid 6th centuries BC, after which the country and its people were absorbed and assimilated into Babylonia. Semitic speaking, it was located in the marshy land of the far southeastern corner of Mesopotamia and briefly came to rule Babylon. That's
Can I look
ancient
at it?
stuff.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, so there is the Chaldean Catholic Church. The Syriac Orthodox Church is one of their things. I don't know. Yeah, you can look at this. I'm pretty certain it was Iraq. So I think it's probably, well, if you think about where ancient Mesopotamia was, I mean, that is Iraq and part of Syria, kind of that Fertile Crescent
Mhm.
sort of area up there. So I think that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And I mean, obviously the Sunnis and Shias have some differences and do some fighting, but like
Mm-hmm.
on a on a more personal level, do like if you learned that somebody was the opposite of you, do you just kind of like turn your back on them? Is that or is that just how it is globally? Do you know what I'm trying?
I know
Yeah.
what you're trying to say.
They live together in many Arab countries and
Yeah.
even in Pakistan, Sunni and Shias, and
Mhm.
India, Sunni and Shias. They
Mhm.
live together and
That's when they
they
all
live
get
in
together
peaceful.
or something. Then
They respect
Well,
each other.
But I think a lot of the fighting though is also political because like Iran is primarily Shia
Yeah,
oh, okay.
and Iran fights with everyone in the Middle East.
For
At
sure.
least. I mean,
And you
Iran,
said
they
Shia
just-
was the one that was like more strict and
the more rituals
Ritual, that's
and,
what I mean,
and
ritual.
saints and
Yeah,
that kind of
okay.
stuff and yeah. But I will say that there are most likely, I know there have been, there most likely are now, Shias who come to the mosque here
mm-hmm.
and pray alongside everyone else.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the nature of a community like this too, where there are actually 6 mosques in Grand Rapids.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I knew of 2. 'Cause
There-
there's
there
one
are-
out by Ada Bible Church. Didn't they build a mosque out there?
and it's
There are 2 on East Paris
Okay.
Bosnia, and
by, so 32nd and East Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 2 there, and the one is like kind of the biggest one in Grand Rapids, and it
Okay.
is the imam there is an Egyptian, and it's usually called the Arab mosque because there are many Arabs who go there,
Yeah.
different flavors of Arab, plus all kinds of other people.
Yeah.
And then next to it, just separated by like a parking lot and a house, is a Bosnian mosque.
Oh, interesting.
And that one, like they kind of partner together with some things, but the Bosnians, so there are also kind of slight differences in the way people can pray and there like some basic teachings, kind of just slight differences, but they're all kind of recognized as like okay. Like they're just different, they're not
Yeah.
wrong. And so the Bosnians, they have slight different way that they'll pray, just very slight, like you wouldn't know it unless you knew it, you
Yeah.
know. And they their sermons, so that there are 2 sermons on a Friday, and at the Arabic mosque, I mean, this is one of the reasons why it's called the Arabic mosque, is the sermons are in English and Arabic. At the Bosnian mosque, they're in Arabic and Bosnian.
Okay.
And there's very, very, very little English that's even used there. Because there's such a high Bosnian refugee population since 1995-ish here. And there are still a lot of people who never really learned English or prefer to have their services in Bosnian. Then, right around the corner here, this was the first one established in Grand Rapids, and he is from Pakistan. Yeah. And so there are a lot of Pakistani, Indian, Bangladeshi. There's like the primary
Okay.
population,
Mm-hmm.
although there's a whole bunch of other people too. And then down on Eastern, just across 28th Street, there's this little, it's been going up over the course of I don't know how many years now. And I think it's called the Bosnian Cultural Center, but that is another Bosnian one that is sponsored by the Bosnian government.
Oh.
And they apparently sent a Bosnian imam or picked an imam, a Bosnian, I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's that one. So that's 4 just in this area. Then the Sudanese, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Somali. Not the Sudanese.
They
The
are-
Somali population.
Some Sudanese also.
Yeah, but it's primarily Somalis. The Somali population, they have their own mosque, so that they can have their education programs according to their languages and traditions and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And but there's there's a lot of crossover there, and then there's one other one that apparently is on Jefferson somewhere between downtown and here. It's somewhere along there. You wouldn't. I guess it's a house, so you wouldn't know it unless you knew to
Sure.
go there. And that one I think is. That one might be more Sudanese, and that might be what I was thinking of. But I know a lot of people in the Medical Mile area would go there for Friday prayers or just noon prayers while they're working because it's so close.
Sure.
So those are the 6 in Grand Rapids.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, I did not know there were 6.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
Sure.
And they seem to all kind of interact with one. Well, I don't know so much about this Bosnian Cultural Center, but the rest of them all kind of seem to interact with one another, quite well and
Yeah.
peaceably, and no like fighting or anything.
Sure.
Although this guy over here likes to point out that this is the first.
We were here first.
Yeah.
He does. No, he's very proud of that fact, and he's been there for 20, 30 years. I don't
Yeah.
know, however long. And so he's very proud, but he's a very kind person.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Very sweet person.
A good thing in Islam you can customize your culture. You can put your culture in it, and inside the mosque or whatever you doing. You can put it into. So when you go into Bosnian, you feel it's like in Bosnian way. If you go to Somalian masjid, you feel it's like they put their culture inside that mosque, and
Okay.
you can find their culture inside there.
Okay.
And one of the best times actually to visit a mosque, really besides Friday afternoon prayer, is really during Ramadan, which people around here who are not Muslim don't want to do because it's late at night.
Right.
But maybe when we get closer to
'Cause that's
Ramadan
like
being in the
fasting
winter.
during the
Yeah.
light
Yeah.
hours or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. So the
Yeah.
party doesn't start until the sun goes down.
Yeah. Is that
It's,
in like what month?
It moves. It's lunar.
Yeah.
So it
okay.
moves. So it's gonna start toward the end of April, mid to end of April. I think
Okay.
around the 24th of April, and go through then the middle of May.
Okay.
It's all year
Um,
round.
And last year it
Interesting.
started the beginning of May and was
Yeah.
like pretty much all of May. So it it moves.
Ooh, that gets tough when you're in the middle of summer, then, huh?
Yeah.
The sun doesn't
Yeah.
go down
Especially
so
in
late.
Egypt.
So the first Ramadan that I tried fasting was in July. July and the very beginning of August.
That was
And
crazy.
I was teaching 4 days a week in the morning at GRCC. And it was so hard. There was one day when I actually overslept so bad because I had been up most of the night,
Mm-hmm.
and because I have to have my coffee, so I had my coffee at like 3:30 in the morning. And, and then I went to sleep, and it had been no problem up until that one day, but I fell asleep so hard I never heard my alarm. I did not hear my students who were calling me on the phone
You've
because
been
they
suffering.
were worried about
Yeah.
me.
Because it's not like you to just not show
I
up.
know. And it was probably around, 10:30, 11 when I woke up and was like, oh my gosh. So I'm like quick emailing everyone, I'm so sorry.
I am okay. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but really if you ever wanted to experience the cultures,
Yeah.
the food, and just the liveliness of everything, the best time really is during Ramadan on one of the community iftar,
Yeah.
which is community meal nights.
Yeah.
Spiritually, and people when gathering together, and
Yeah, you
So
get the
nice.
whole package then.
Yeah.
You get the spiritual practices as well as the hanging out with people and so many different kinds of people
Yeah.
all in one space. And
in Egypt it's special, so special because whole family they gathering together and breaking fast together and spending a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then for the night prayers during Ramadan, they have people lined up along the street. They're just all along the street. Like the whole city. Like seriously, they're like the whole city becomes a mosque and they're just like all along the street praying the night prayers together.
That's cool.
Like you would not see that here.
Yeah.
I might show you in Alexandria. They it's like blocking the whole street.
Oh wow.
On the Corniche.
Mm-hmm.
It's like thousands of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
I when I lived in Malawi, I ended up renting a room that was on the little school that and one of the students there invited me to go back. It must have been like right at the end of Ramadan.
Okay.
Because she's like, you gotta come back with us. And so I had no idea what was going on. It was fun. I'll go. Good food. What else do I need to make sure I get in here before? I don't know. Can you think of anything? Anything I didn't cover? Anything that you think this is very important to know about Islam, Arab Americans?
I would say a couple of things. One, most Muslims, and you already know this, but people need to know this because of media.
Mm-hmm.
But most Muslims don't go around thinking of like how they can hurt other people.
Yeah,
They go around thinking of how they can help other people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of respect for others, regardless of what faith they practice or don't practice. And for example, I mentioned that my sister's coming out was part of my kind of move away from, at least particularly that church, and then led to more examinations and stuff. But never once has anyone in the Muslim community even come near to suggesting that I needed to cut my sister off, that I needed to limit contact with her, that I needed to evangelize to her. And, no one has ever said anything like that. Yeah. And, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the media that makes Muslims out to be the most intolerant people on earth. And that is so far from the truth. So far from the truth. I just want to smack everyone. Wait, that's violent. No.
Right.
But I do. I just want to smack the people who can't get their heads around that, And I forgot the other thing I was going to say. So maybe I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, I don't know if I just am missing it or if I skipped it, but yeah, thinking about stereotypes and
education. Education is extremely important in Arab cultures, in Islam. Like, you are supposed to pursue as much knowledge as you can, both secular and spiritual. And that's for everyone. And some of the best teachers traditionally, like going back to even the beginnings of Islam, have been women.
Really?
One of the first universities in the world was established by a Muslim woman.
I did learn that because I follow Mighty Girls on
Yes! So do I!
or whatever it's called on Facebook.
Yeah. But I mean, that's stuff that is often...
Facebook is very informative.
I know, isn't it? But I mean, that's stuff that is often overlooked or even pushed aside in favor of the narratives of oppression and intolerance and bigotry and that.
Yeah.
And you just, I mean, there are always people who, go around being jerks, but regardless of their ethnicity or religion or whatever. But overwhelmingly, that is, the people that I've met and that I've had contact with here and in Egypt and in Saudi Arabia have been anything but oppressive, intolerant, and nasty.
Mhm.
You know, they're just normal people living their lives.
Yeah.
The Islam teaching, if somebody kill somebody, it's like kill all human beings on that earth, on this earth.
Mhm.
So it's something so big. If the blood, it's in Islamic belief, they no tolerance if somebody killed or hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where the intolerance would come in,
Yeah.
is if
Yeah.
a murder or
Right.
some harm like
But,
that.
yeah. So to take a life is the same as taking all lives. To save a life is the same as saving all lives. So life is sacred,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Is there any, I mean, you talked about, what did you talk about? This is why I'm recording, because I'll forget
Exactly.
things. Are there any things that, you think, like, this is so great in our culture, in my culture,
Yeah.
that you don't see here? I think we kind of talked about that, but
Besides the emphasis on family.
like, what are we missing out on?
Like people here, they are. How can I say? They are. Some of them, I don't say it in general.
You
they
won't
don't-
offend me.
Yeah, they don't believe in any religion. They just
Mm-hmm.
they believe in materials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's something I don't like. I like I told you before. It's in Egypt. It's like religious community. We
Mhm.
raised up on whatever that religion.
Mm-hmm.
So religion it's main thing in our life.
Mm-hmm. Does where you grew up in Egypt have as many churches as Grand Rapids?
Yeah. But it's almost it's Orthodox, and
It's
some
Orthodox is what
yeah,
okay.
but some Protestant.
Okay.
Catholic it's so little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are a lot of churches and a lot of mosques.
Yeah.
Are there like, I mean, they are so specific about separation of church and state here when it's convenient.
Yeah.
Exactly, when it's convenient.
Is that true in Egypt as well, or is like it's kind of, you talk about religion in your studies, like when you're studying history and science and
Do you mean in
Like when you were in school.
yeah? Do you mean for both for Muslims and Christian, or for
yeah,
specifically for me?
if you know, and specifically for you.
It's it was when I was in school. Yeah, it was main thing, but nowadays it becomes not necessary.
Okay.
They don't think they cancel religion from
From the schools.
schools, I guess,
'Cause
nowadays.
CC's
Yeah.
CC has this campaign going. I don't know if he's trying to secularize Egypt or if he's just trying to control what Egyptians understand as religion.
Oh.
Because even in like the big Al Azhar, in the mosque there, it's this big old mosque. They have
they're
classes
fighting
and stuff, but
against each other.
they used to have a lot of literature about Islam for anyone who came, tourists,
Mm-hmm.
other people, anyone who came. Those shelves are all empty because Sisi demanded that all be removed.
Oh, okay.
So if you went to visit, like when he took me to visit Al Azhar, I couldn't just like pick up some literature about
Mhm.
the building, about the teachings that go on there, or anything.
Yeah.
It's not allowed to have that. And then Khadiga's in school now,
Yeah.
and she's not getting any.
No, I don't think so. It's
Okay.
now I think they canceled that
Mm.
thing from all schools.
Yeah.
I think almost schools they don't teaching.
Are the
any-
schools, would they be public schools?
I was about to ask the
Yeah,
same
some-
question.
Almost schools, public
Okay.
schools.
Do they have like private? Like we have, Grand Rapids Christian over here, and like St. Thomas down the road, and different schools, like religious schools. Do they have private religious schools?
Yeah, some of them, and especially Christian schools.
Mm.
And it's not just only for Christian. Some Muslim they going
Yeah.
to, because it has they have a good quality in
Yeah.
education.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
My Christian education was a good quality, but I think Grand Rapids Christian is. I mean, right? Don't they have a pretty good?
I think so. I mean, from what I've heard, and
Yeah.
the fact that they tend to get into fairly decent colleges
Yeah.
when they apply
I
to
mean,
them.
like we didn't talk about anything that would have been controversial in comparison to the Bible.
Mm.
Like if you
Yeah.
couldn't directly tie it back to the Bible, then we didn't talk about it. So like any philosophers and
Mhm.
stuff, we just didn't talk about it. So I feel like I missed a big chunk of that in my formative
yeah.
years.
I think that's true of most like Christian schools in the U.S. I think there are some who do a better job than others,
Yeah.
but I do think that's true of most Christian
Yeah.
schools. I think most evangelical Christian schools around the world are going to be more like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Anything else?
They
Um,
he went to school with girls until how old?
like 10 or 11.
And then they have girls' schools and boys' schools.
Okay.
Yeah. Then
And then in university they come back together.
It's a bad time to put them back together.
Just keep them apart forever. No.
Yeah. But it is what it is.
Or good, but I mean.
And that makes me think.
But
of
it's
one
not all
thing.
schools they doing that. It's
Yeah.
just almost
Yeah.
public schools.
So he kind of touched on this when he was talking about how like Islam can kind of absorb or take on any different culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I think is important to look at in the kind of from the viewpoint that not everything that non-Muslims or even Muslims associate with Islam is actually Islam.
Oh,
A lot of it is culture, but because they're so intertwined, like he's saying, in Egypt and in most of the primarily Muslim countries, religion and life, like it's a way of life. It's a daily thing. They're
Mhm.
intertwined so much, you can't really separate it out. Like,
Yeah.
you can separate pretty
Yeah.
easily in the public
Oh, dear.
sphere.
Time's up.
Oops. It is 6:56.
Okay.
So yeah, but you can't do that in these other countries like in
Yeah.
Egypt and Saudi and Pakistan
Mhm.
and Jordan and all of those, like they're so
Mm-hmm.
so that even sometimes the people themselves, not just the outsiders, don't know which is which
Sure.
because they're all
Yeah.
and so
Right.
that can cause some tension
Mm-hmm.
amongst people. but most of the time they just are like, okay, well that's just
That's how you do
your
it.
way.
They just like mix it together.
Yeah.
Must be a Saudi thing.
Sure.
So,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it so much. I really
no
do.
problem.
And I can buy your ingredients so you can make some for my whole. There are only 10 of us, 12 of us. There are not many.
You don't have to
Sure.
buy the
And
ingredients.
then we can
Should we
you can get your business
can
started.
we wrap those
Can
up
I
and
show
send
you?
those with her?
Yes,
Can we wrap
of course,
those
yeah.
up? Okay. Let me go do that.
I'd like to show you that.
Oh yeah, he wants to show
Okay.
you something.
Oh yeah, and
Video.
can you like send me a link or whatever? You said you watched a.
That one video?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what we can.
Hopefully we caught this.
How many people